Humanity isn't measured by survival, it's measured by what we refuse to become. The air in Eclipse Haven's central market crackled with static and the sharp tang of burnt metal. A cacophony of shouts bounced off rusted walls, mingling with the hum of flickering red neon lights. On a raised platform, Lysara stood defiant, her sapphire skin glowing under the harsh glare of spotlights. Chains clinked around her wrists, but her white, pupilless eyes blazed with fury. She drove her fist into the jaw of a hulking trader, her voice cutting through the chaos like a plasma bolt. "I'm not your damn merchandise," the crowd roared, some cheering, others jeering. Toren Kael, tore to anyone who mattered, watched from the edge of the throng. His mechanical hand tightened around the hilt of his plasma sword, the faint whir of its gears barely audible over the din. Sweat beaded on his brow, matting his scorched brown hair. That punch, that fire in her, it hit him like a meteor strike. He saw his sister in her, the way she'd fought back when the Helix hunters dragged her away. The memory clawed at him, bitter and raw. 500 creds for the Valtheri, the auctioneer bellowed, his voice amplified by a crackling mic. Glows like a star, works like a machine, perfect power source. Tor's jaw clenched. He'd come to this scrap heap station for parts, not a conscience. But that map in his pocket, the one etched with Xylarath code, burned against his chest. If she could read it, she might be his ticket to the Helix Core. The fabled energy source that could free humanity from this rotting galaxy. More than that, though, her defiance stirred something he'd buried deep. Redemption wasn't cheap, but he'd pay for it anyway. 600, Tor shouted, stepping forward. His voice cut through the noise, steady and hard. The crowd parted, eyes narrowing at the stranger with the patched armor and metal arm. The auctioneer grinned, revealing teeth stained black from stim chew. 650, anyone? Going once. No one challenged him. Tor tossed a credit chip onto the platform, the clatter echoing as it hit the steel. Lysara's head snapped toward him, her glowing skin pulsing faintly. She didn't speak, but her stare could have melted hull plating. The trader unshackled her, shoving her toward Tor. She stumbled but caught herself, fists still balled like she'd swing again, given half a chance. Tor met her gaze, unflinching. "You're free now. No chains, no masters. But I need your help." She spat on the ground near his boots, her voice low and venomous. "I don't trust humans, especially not hunters like you." "Fair enough," Tor said, turning toward the exit. "But I'm not here to own you. Come or don't. I've got a ship and a map that might mean something to your kind." The market buzzed around them as he walked away, the weight of her eyes boring into his back. His boots thudded against the grimy floor, each step kicking up dust that smelled of oil and rust. The Valtheri were legends, bioengineers who'd once turned the tide against the Xylarath machines. Now they were just batteries to be drained. Tor knew that game too well. He'd played it once, back when he still called himself a Helix hunter, back before his sister paid the price. Lysara followed, her steps silent despite the heavy air. Tor didn't look back, but he felt her presence, a storm brewing behind him. The crowd thinned as they neared the docks, the neon glow fading into shadows. A grizzled trader leaned against a crate, his voice a raspy growl as Tor passed. "Watch your back, Kael. The Pure Collective doesn't like traders messing with their rules." Tor froze for a split second, his flesh hand brushing the map in his pocket. The Pure Collective. Fanatics who'd torch the galaxy to cleanse it of nano-tech. He'd heard whispers about them, seen their graffiti scrawled on station walls. DNA torn in half, a warning to all who dared defy their creed. Why him, though? He was just another scavenger in this void-forsaken place. Lysara's voice broke his thoughts, sharp as a blade. "You're not the first to buy me, human." "What makes you think I'll stay?" Tor turned, meeting her glare. "Because I'm not the first to let you go. Stick around. You might find out what's worth fighting for." Her lips twitched, not quite a sneer. She stepped closer, the faint hum of her glowing skin filling the silence. Somewhere in the distance, a ship's engine roared to life, a deep rumble that shook the station's bones. Tor's gut tightened. Trouble was coming. He could feel it. The docking bay of Eclipse Haven smelled like spilled fuel and desperation. Tor's boots clanged against the perforated steel walkway, each step ringing out in the cavernous space. Behind him, Lysara's presence was a quiet hum, her glowing, sapphire skin casting faint reflections on the walls. The ashen wing loomed ahead, a patched-up relic of a ship, its hull scarred from too many runs through the Helix debris fields. Its engines growled low, a beast barely tamed. Tor punched a code into the airlock. It hissed open with a puff of stale air, revealing a cramped interior, lit by flickering blue panels. He stepped inside, gesturing for Lysara to follow. This is home. Not much, but it flies. She crossed the threshold, her eyes scanning the mess of wires and cracked consoles. Without a word, she knelt by the engine manifold, her fingers tracing a leaking nano-conduit. A faint buzz filled the air as she worked, her movements precise despite the tension in her shoulders. Tor watched, leaning against a bulkhead. Her silence spoke louder than any insult. "I don't owe you anything," Lysara said at last, her voice sharp enough to cut steel. She didn't look up, focused on twisting a valve shut. Fluid stopped dripping and the engine's growl steadied. "Never said you did." Tor's tone stayed even, his flesh hand resting on the map in his pocket. "But you're Valtheri. Your people built wonders, stuff humans like me can only dream of breaking." She snorted, standing to face him. Her glow pulsed brighter for a moment, a flare of defiance. "And now you hunt us, drain us, call it survival." Tor's mechanical hand twitched, the gears clicking softly. He hated that sound, hated what it meant. "This arm saved me once, kept me breathing after a hull breach. But every time it moves, I wonder what I traded for it." He paused, his grey eyes locking onto hers. "My mother called me Toren Kael, said it meant one who stands. I stopped standing for anything the day my sister died." Lysara's expression didn't soften, but something flickered in her gaze. Curiosity, maybe. She turned back to the console, tapping a screen. "Your ship's a wreck, nanocore's half-fried. You're lucky it hasn't blown yet." "Then, fix it," Tor said, stepping closer. "You're good at this. Better than me. And that map I've got, it's Xylarath code. If you can read it, we might both get something out of this." She hesitated, her fingers hovering over the controls. The hum of her skin grew louder, a steady rhythm like a heartbeat. Then, with a quick swipe, she pulled up the ship's diagnostics. A faint signal crackled through the static, an encrypted pulse from the map in Tor's pocket. Lysara froze, her voice dropping to a whisper. "That's my mother's code. She used it to hide messages from the hunters." Tor pulled the map free, its surface shimmering with alien glyphs. He handed it to her, his flesh fingers brushing hers, warm against her cool glow. She traced the symbols, her breath catching. The console beeped as the signal synced, projecting a fractured hologram. A starfield spun into view, dotted with helix wrecks. Then a symbol flashed, a double helix torn in half, pulsing red. "Holy void," Tor muttered, stepping back. That mark, he'd seen it before, scratched into station walls, whispered about, in dark corners. The pure collective. Lysara's eyes widened, her glow dimming slightly. "That's not Valtheri. It's something else. Something hunting us both." She tapped the console again, and the signal cut off. Silence fell, thick and heavy, broken only by the distant rumble of docking clamps, releasing another ship. Tor's mind raced. The pure collective hated nanotech, hated anything that blurred the line between man and machine. He'd brushed them off as zealots. But that symbol felt personal now, like a ghost from a life he'd left behind. His mother's voice echoed. In his head, Torval stand tall, but standing tall had gotten him nothing but scars. Lysara broke the quiet, her tone icy. If this map's trouble, I'm out. I've lost enough to your kind. It's not just trouble, Tor replied, his voice firm. It's a way out. For both of us. Stick with me, and we'll figure out what your mother hid. The ship shuddered as something docked nearby, a deep clang reverberating through the hull. Lysara's glow steadied, her fists unclenching. She didn't trust him. Not yet, but she didn't walk away either. Outside, the station's shadows grew longer. Trouble was closing in. The Ashen Wing trembled as the docking bay's clamps rattled loose. A low, guttural roar echoed through Eclipse Haven's steel corridors, another ship powering up, too close for comfort. Tor's boots hit the cockpit floor with a thud. He slid into the pilot's seat, his mechanical hand flicking switches while his flesh fingers punched coordinates into the nav screen. The console buzzed, its cracked surface glowing faintly blue. Lysara stood behind him, her sapphire glow casting sharp shadow across the controls. She braced herself against a bulkhead as the ship jolted. "You're insane if you think this heap can outrun anything," she snapped, her voice tight with distrust. "Insane's kept me alive this long." Tor shot back. He yanked the throttle, and the engines coughed to life, spitting a plume exhaust that rattled the bay's walls. The Ashen Wing lurched forward, scraping past a rusted freighter with a shriek of metal on metal. Through the viewport, the Helix debris field loomed, a graveyard of jagged ship husks floating in the void. Their twisted frames glinted under the dying light of a distant supernova, a red haze painting the scene in blood. Tor's pulse quickened. He'd run these lanes before, dodging pirates and scavengers. But this felt different, heavier. A proximity alert blared, sharp and insistent. Tor's eyes darted to the scanner, a sleek, black-hulled ship, cut through the shadows, its engines flaring plasma blue. Karvox' black blade was on their tail. The bastard's voice crackled over the open comms, rough as grinding gears. "You got my prize, Kael. Hand over the Valtheri, or I'll carve you up and sell the scraps." Lysara's glow flared, her fists clenching. "He's the one who torched my family, turned them into power cells." Her words dripped venom, each syllable a wound torn open. Tor kept his focus on the controls, weaving the Ashen Wing through a gap between two wrecked hulls. Sparks flew as the ship grazed an edge, the screech piercing the cockpit. "Yeah, well, he's not getting you," he said, his tone hard. "I used to hunt like him, chased Valtheri for creds. Stopped the day my sister died trying to save one." Her head snapped toward him, eyes narrowing. "Why should I believe you?" "You shouldn't," Tor replied, banking the ship hard to avoid a drifting asteroid. "But I'm not dragging you back there. That's a start." The Ashen Wing shuddered as Karvox's ship fired. A plasma bolt streaked past, searing a nearby wreck into molten slag. The air in the cockpit grew hot, thick with the smell of ozone. Tor gritted his teeth. He spun the ship into a tight spiral, dodging another shot. The debris field was their shield now, a maze of steel and silence. Lysara stumbled, but caught herself, her glow steadying. She leaned over the co-pilot's console, fingers flying across the keys. "Your shields are trash. I'm rerouting power. Don't crash us before I'm done." Her voice held a grudging edge, like she hated helping but couldn't stop herself. Tor smirked despite the chaos. "Keep that up, and we might just live." A new signal cut through the static, cold and mechanical. "Nano is sin, surrender the abomination." The voice wasn't Karvox's. It was clipped, almost robotic, laced with a zealot's certainty. Tor's stomach dropped. The pure collective, their ship, an angular beast bristling with turrets, emerged from behind a shattered frigate, its hull painted with that torn DNA mark. 2 hunters now. Lysara's tone sharpened, her glow pulsing fast. "You've got a knack for trouble, human." "Comes with the territory," Tor muttered. He punched the thrusters, the Ashen Wing screaming as it dove deeper into the helix. The wrecks closed in, their jagged edges clawing at the ship's hull. A dull boom shook the cockpit. Karvox's next shot clipped their wing, sending a jolt through the frame. Tor wrestled the controls, sweat stinging his eyes. "Hold on." The ship veered into a narrow gap, barely clearing the walls. Behind them, Karvox's voice roared over the comms again, louder this time. "Her mother begged me, Kael, begged me to spare her kid. I let her live that day. Won't make that mistake twice." Lysara froze, her hands stealing on the console. Her glow dimmed, just for a heartbeat. Tor glanced at her, his voice low. "He's lying to mess with you. Don't let him." She didn't answer, but her fingers moved again, faster now. The shields hummed to life, a faint shimmer against the viewport. Outside, the twin threats of Karvox and the Collective loomed. Closer, their engines roaring like predators in the dark. The Helix swallowed them whole, and the chase was far from over. The ashen wing slipped into the shadow of a gutted freighter, its engines falling silent. The Helix debris field stretched around them, a labyrinth of twisted metal and faint starlight. Inside the cockpit, the air hung heavy with the tang of scorched circuits. Tor slumped in the pilot's seat, his flesh hand wiping sweat from his brow. His mechanical arm lay still, its gears quiet for once. The chase had bought them a moment, just a moment, to breathe. Lysara stood by the co-pilot's console, her sapphire glow casting a cool light across the flickering screens. Her fingers danced over the controls, pulling up a damage report. The shields glowed faintly through the viewport, a thin barrier against the void. She didn't look at Tor, but her voice cut through the stillness, sharp and cold. "Your ship's a death trap. One more hit, and we're dust." Tor exhaled, leaning back. "She's held up this long. Tougher than she looks." He tapped the armrest, the dull clank of metal echoing softly. "Tough doesn't mean smart," Lysara shot back. She spun the console toward him, revealing a map of cracked hull plating and leaking nanolines. Then, without warning, she darted for the airlock controls. Her hands moved fast, overriding the lock with a series of quick jabs. The panel beeped, and the inner hatch began to hiss open. Tor was on his feet in an instant, his boots slamming the deck. "What the hell are you doing?" He lunged forward, grabbing her wrist with his flesh hand. Her skin felt cool, electric, under his grip. Lysara twisted free, her glow flaring bright. "I'm not your prisoner," she snarled, shoving him back. She reached for the hatch again, but Tor blocked her path, his broad frame filling the narrow space. "I'm not locking you up," he said, his voice low and steady. "You want out? Go. But you won't last 10 minutes in that field with Karvox. And those zealots hunting you." Her eyes narrowed, white and unyielding. "I've survived worse than you. My people had a home once, a promised land beyond the Helix. Green skies, clean air, no chains. Zealots took it, and hunters. Like you finished the job." Her words carried a weight, a longing wrapped in rage. Tor's jaw tightened. He stepped back, giving her room but not retreat. "I used to be that hunter. Chased Valtheri for creds, drained them dry. My sister, she saw something different. Tried to save one of you. They cut her down for it, and I just watched." His voice cracked, just for a second. "I'm done with that life. Help me, and I'll help you find whatever's left of that promise." Lysara stared at him, her glow steadying. The hum of her skin filled the silence, a soft pulse like distant thunder. She turned back to the console, her fingers hovering. "You're a liar or a fool. Either way, I don't trust you." "Then don't," Tor said, crossing his arms. "But you're still here." "That's something." She didn't reply. Instead, she tapped the screen, pulling up the Xylarath map from his pocket. The glyphs shimmered, projecting a faint star field again. A signal pulsed through the static, weak, fragmented, but alive. Lysara's breath hitched. "This is Valtheri. Old code, from before the fall." She adjusted the frequency, and a whisper broke through. "We wait in the Helix, Home still lives. Tor leaned closer, the faint glow of the hologram reflecting. In his grey eyes, your promised land. His tone held a mix of doubt and hope, a scavenger's instinct kicking in. Maybe, Lysara murmured, her voice softer now. She traced the signal's path, a jagged line cutting north through the debris field. It's faint, could be a trap, or a ghost. Ghosts don't send signals, Tor said, straightening up. If it's real, we've got a shot at something bigger than running. The ship creaked as a piece of debris drifted past, scraping the hull with a low groan. Lysara's hands stilled on the console. She didn't look at him, but her shoulders relaxed. Just a fraction. If I stay, it's for me, not you. Works for me, Tor replied, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. He turned to the viewport, staring into the dark. The Helix stretched endless before them, a graveyard hiding secrets. Then a shadow move. Outside. A flicker against the starlight. Something was out there, watching. Lysara's glow dimmed, her voice a whisper. We're not alone. The signal pulsed again, faint but insistent, calling them deeper into the void. The cockpit of the Ashen Wing buzzed with tension, the faint hum of Lysara's glowing skin blending with the ship's creaking hull. Beyond the viewport, the Helix debris field shimmered, a deadly dance of jagged wrecks and starlight. Tor stood by the controls, his flesh hand gripping the edge of the console. His mechanical arm hung silent, a cold weight at his side. The shadow outside had vanished, but the air felt thicker now, charged with something unspoken. Lysara hunched over the co-pilot station, her fingers coaxing life from the cracked screen. The Valtheri signal pulsed again, a whisper from the void. We wait in the Helix. Home still lives. Her voice trembled slightly, a crack in her steel resolve. It's real. I know it. Tor glanced at her, his grey eyes narrowing. Real or not, we've got bigger problems. He tapped the scanner, its red blips flaring to life. 2 ships, Karvox's, Black Hunter and the Pure Collective's turreted beast, were closing in fast. The debris field wouldn't hide them forever. A sudden roar split the silence. Plasma bolts erupted from the darkness, searing the wreck beside them. Molten metal sprayed across the void, and the Ashen Wing rocked hard. Tor stumbled, catching himself on the pilot's seat. Strap in, he barked, diving for the controls. Lysara didn't move. She slammed her hands onto the console, rerouting power with a frantic rhythm. Shields are failing. I can boost them, but... Her words cut off as another blast struck, the impact rattling the hull. Sparks flew from a panel, overhead, showering the cockpit in a cascade of light. Tor yanked the throttle, sending the ship into a sharp dive. The viewport filled with the skeletal frame of a dead frigate, its ribs looming like a trap. Do it now, or we're done. His voice was rough, edged with adrenaline. Lysara's glow flared bright, her fingers trembling as she accessed the nano-core. This'll cost us, she warned, her tone sharp. She punched in a command, and a surge of energy pulsed through the ship. The shields snapped back to life, a shimmering wall of blue against the next volley. But then her skin flickered, dimming, then sparking. She gasped, clutching her chest. Tor spun toward her, his boots skidding on the deck. What's wrong? Her voice came out strained, almost a whisper. Nano overload. I tapped the core too hard. It's breaking me down. Her glow stuttered again. Faint cracks of light splintering across her arms. The curse of dissolution, humanity's safeguard against Xylarath, had sunk its claws into her. Tor's gut twisted. He'd seen that curse before, watched a scav melt into ash after pushing nano-tech too far. 72 hours, maybe less. You're not dying on me, he said, his voice low but fierce. Not after that. Lysara slumped against the console, her breathing ragged. Don't pretend you care, human. Her words bit, but her eyes flickered with something softer. Fear, maybe trust. I don't pretend, Tor shot back. He slammed the ship into a tight turn, threading through the wreckage. Karvox's ship loomed closer, its plasma cannons glowing hot. The pure collective trailed behind, their turrets spitting fire. Tor's mind raced. They needed Duskspire, the old Xylarath outpost. If anyone could break the curse, it'd be there. Buried in alien tech. "Hold on," he said, locking eyes with her. "I've lost enough people. Not you too." His sister's face flashed in his mind, her screams as the hunters took her. He shook it off, focusing on the nav screen. Duskspire was a long shot, but it was their only shot. Lysara forced herself, upright, her glow weak but stubborn. "If I die, it's my choice, not yours." She tapped the console again, diverting the last of the shields to the rear. The ship jolted as a bolt grazed them, the hull groaning in protest. Tor smirked despite the chaos. "Keep choosing then. We're not dead yet." He pushed the engines to their limit, the ashen wings screaming through the debris. The wrecks blurred past, a tunnel of steel and silence. Karvox's voice crackled over the comms, a guttural snarl. "You can't run forever, Kael. She's mine." The pure collective's cold chant followed, chilling the air. "Nano is sin. Purge the unclean." Lysara's glow dimmed further, her hands shaking. Tor glanced at her, his voice dropping low. "We're getting out of this. Together." The ashen wing plunged deeper into the helix, chased by fire and fury. A faint silhouette flickered on the scanner, a ship or something else, watching from the shadows. The ashen wing cut through the helix debris field, its engines groaning under the strain. Outside, the void pulsed with danger. Jagged wrecks spun lazily, their edges glinting like knives in the supernova's red glow. Magnetic storms crackled. In the distance, arcs of violet lightning dancing between shattered hulls. Inside the cockpit, the air buzzed with static and the faint scent of overheating circuits. Tor gripped the controls, his flesh hand slick with sweat. His mechanical arm was gone now, just a memory of grinding gears. And the absence weighed on him. He glanced at Lysara, slumped in the co-pilot's seat. Her sapphire glow flickered weakly, cracks of light splintering across her skin. The curse of dissolution was eating her alive, one shuddering breath at a time. "We're close," Tor said, his voice rough but steady. He nodded at the nav screen, where a blip marked Duskspire, an old Xylarath outpost buried deep in the helix. "If there's a fix for that curse, it's there." Lysara lifted her head, her white eyes dim but sharp. "You don't know that." Her words rasped, each one a fight against the pain. "I've studied the nano-lock, broke it apart in my head 100 times. It's Xylarath tech, beyond your kind." Tor's jaw tightened. "Then you're the one who'll crack it. I'm just the ride." He banked the ship hard, dodging a spinning chunk of debris. The hull screeched as it grazed past, a high-pitched wail cutting through the cockpit. She managed a faint smirk, her glow pulsing briefly. "Some ride. This thing's a coffin with wings. Keeps flying, doesn't it?" Tor shot back. He adjusted the throttle, weaving through a narrow gap between two wrecked frigates. The walls closed in, steel claws scraping the ashen wing sides. Sparks flared outside, lighting the viewport in fleeting bursts. Lysara braced herself, her hands trembling on the console. "I can stabilize the shields. Buy us time." She tapped a command, her fingers slow but precise. The hum of the nano-core steadied and the shields flickered back to life, a thin blue veil against the storm. Tor nodded, keeping his eyes on the path ahead. "Good. We'll need every second." He paused, his voice dropping lower. "This arm used to be my lifeline. Now it's just a ghost. Makes me wonder what I'm holding on to." Her gaze flicked to him, sharp despite the fatigue. "You're not the only one losing pieces." She flexed her cracked hands, the light within them fading. "Valtheri built nano-tech to heal, not destroy. Humans turned it into this curse. Humans like the pure collective." Tor muttered. He had seen their graffiti, DNA torn apart, a creed to purge anything tainted. They wanted the galaxy clean, even if it meant burning it all down. They'd call you an abomination. Me too, probably. Lysara snorted a dry sound. They're not wrong about you. A sudden jolt rocked the ship. A magnetic surge slammed into them, violet tendrils lashing the hull. The shields flared, then dimmed, the console sparking wildly. Tor wrestled the controls, his voice rising. Hold tight. The ashen wing spun, narrowly missing a jagged spire of wreckage. The storm's roar filled the cockpit, a deep bellow that shook the walls. Lysara gritted her teeth, her glow dimming further. We're not outrunning this, not like this. She leaned forward, pulling up a sensor sweep. A faint signal blinked. Through the chaos, an old Valtheri beacon buried in a nearby wreck. Its message crackled through the static, faint but clear. The promised land lies north. Tor's head snapped toward her. Another ghost signal. His tone carried a scav's skepticism, but his eyes betrayed a spark of hope. It's ours, Lysara insisted, her voice firm despite the strain. From before the fall. Could be a relay, something pointing home. She traced the signal's path, a thin line cutting through the Helix's northern edge. The ship steadied as the storm passed, its echoes fading into a low rumble. Tor adjusted course, his flesh hand guiding them toward the beacon. North it is then, but we're still racing the clock. And Karvox. Lysara nodded, her cracked hands curling into fists. If I die out here, it won't be for nothing. Her glow steadied, a faint pulse of defiance against the curse. Tor kept his focus on the viewport, the debris field stretching endless before them. The wrecks glowed faintly, their secrets locked in silence. Then a shadow flickered on the scanner. Something big, moving fast. The Helix wasn't done with them yet. The ashen wing hummed through the Helix, its hull scraping past a skeletal wreck with a dull groan. The debris field glowed faintly, bathed in the supernova's crimson haze. Inside the cockpit, the air crackled with the tension, the faint hiss of leaking nanolines blending with the ship's strained engines. Tor sat rigid at the controls, his flesh hand steady on the throttle. His missing arm ached, a phantom itch he couldn't scratch. Lysara leaned against the co-pilot's console, her sapphire glow dim and fractured. The curse of dissolution carved deeper into her, thin lines of light splintering across her chest. She stared at the scanner, tracking the Valtheri beacon's northern signal. We're close to Dusk Spire, she rasped, her voice brittle but determined. If I can hold out, we'll make it. Tor nodded, his gray eyes fixed on the viewport. You will. We're not losing this fight. His words carried a scav's stubbornness, forged in years of clawing through the void. A shadow loomed ahead, a sleek, black ship slicing through the debris. Karvox's black blade was back. His voice snarled over the comms, raw and jagged. End of the line, Kael. That Valtheri's mine. Her glow's worth a fortune. The ship's plasma cannons flared, a deadly promise in the dark. Lysara's glow pulsed, her fists clenching. He's the butcher who took my family. I'll die before he gets me. Her tone burned, a fire the curse couldn't snuff out. Tor banked the ashen wing hard, dodging a plasma bolt that seared the void behind them. The blast grazed a nearby wreck, melting steel into glowing slag. Not today, he growled, weaving through the debris. He's not touching you. The chase tightened, Karvox's ship closing the gap. Tor spun the ashen wing into a narrow tunnel of wreckage, its walls scraping the hole with a teeth-grinding screech. Sparks flared outside, lighting the cockpit. In brief, harsh flashes, Lysara braced herself, her cracked hands gripping the console. He's too fast. We can't shake him like this. Watch me, Tor said, his voice tight. He pushed the engines harder, the ship shuddering as it cleared the tunnel. Ahead, Dusk Spire emerged, a jagged Xylarath outpost, its spires piercing the void like ancient claws. They were almost there. A sudden jolt rocked them. Karvox's ship fired again, clipping the Ashen Wing's rear. The shields flickered, then died, a low whine signaling their collapse. Tor cursed under his breath, wrestling the controls. "Come on, girl, hold together." Karvox's ship pulled alongside, its black hull gleaming in the starlight. His voice crackled through the comms again, softer this time, almost reluctant. "Her mother begged me, Kael. Knelt in the dirt, offered her life for the kid. I let her go. Biggest mistake I ever made." Lysara froze, her glow dimming to a faint shimmer. Her white eyes widened, locked on the comms panel. "You're lying," she whispered, but her voice trembled, caught between rage and doubt. "Am I?" Karvox's tone turned bitter. "She was a fighter, like you. Should have drained her then and there." Tor glanced at Lysara, his flesh hand tightening on the throttle. "He's baiting you. Don't bite." But her silence told him the hook was already set. The Ashen Wing lurched as Karvox rammed them, metal grinding against metal. Tor spun the ship, narrowly avoiding a second hit. Lysara snapped out of her daze, her hands flying across the console. "I'm locking his targeting array," she said, her voice steely again. "Give me a shot." Tor grinned despite the chaos. "There's the fire." He yanked the ship into a sharp climb, exposing Karvox's flank. Lysara punched a command, and a pulse surged from the Ashen Wing's battered weapons. It struck true. Karvox's ship veered, sparks erupting from its side. Karvox roared over the comms, his voice a mix of fury and pain. "You'll pay for that, Valtheri." His ship pulled back, limping but still dangerous. Tor leveled the Ashen Wing, steering toward Duskspire's looming silhouette. "He's down, not out," he said, his tone grim. "We've got a window. Let's use it." Lysara nodded, her glow steadying slightly. "If he's telling the truth about my mother, I need answers. But not from his corpse, not yet." Her words carried a promise, a vow carved in the void. The outpost grew closer, its dark spires swallowing the starlight. Then a new signal flared on the scanner, a cold, clipped voice cutting through the static. "Treason detected. The Prophet sees all." Karvox wasn't their only shadow anymore. The Ashen Wing touched down on Duskspire's jagged landing pad with a heavy thud. The Xylarath outpost loomed above, its spires piercing the void like blackened bones. Shadows stretched long and thin across the cracked platform, lit by the faint red glow of the distant supernova. A low hum vibrated through the air, the remnant pulse of ancient machinery buried deep within. Tor killed the engines, their growl fading into an eerie silence. He stepped out of the cockpit, his boots crunching on the frost-dusted steel. His missing arm left an odd balance to his stride, but he moved with purpose. Lysara followed, her sapphire glow dim and fractured. The curse of dissolution etched deeper into her skin, faint sparks flickering with every step. She clutched the console's edge for support, her white eyes scanning the dark. "This place reeks of death," she muttered, her voice hoarse but steady. "Xylarath built it to last. We might find something to stop this curse." Tor nodded, his gray eyes tracing the spires. "Let's hope it's more than ghosts." He pulled his plasma sword from its sheath, the blade humming to life with a soft blue glow. The outpost's airlock loomed ahead, its surface pitted with centuries of micro-impacts. A sudden roar shattered the quiet. Karvox's black ship dropped from the shadows, engines flaring plasma blue. It landed hard, kicking up a storm of dust and ice. The hatch slammed open, and Karvox's black blade stepped out, his silhouette framed by the ship's glow. His scarred face twisted into a snarl, the plasma dagger in his hand pulsing red. "Thought you'd slip me, Kael," he bellowed, his voice rough as grinding steel. "That Valtheri's mine. Her glow's my ticket out of this hellhole." Lysara stiffened, her cracked hands balling into fists. "You'll get nothing from me, butcher." Her glow flared briefly, a defiant spark against the dark. Tor stepped forward, sword raised. "She's not your prize. Back off, Karvox, or I'll finish what we started." His tone was hard, a scav's promise honed by years in the void. Karvox charged, his dagger slashing the air. Tor met him head-on, their blades clashing with a sharp crack. Sparks flew, lighting the platform in fleeting bursts. The big man's strength pressed Tor back, but he twisted aside, landing a kick to Karvox's knee. The hunter grunted, stumbling but not falling. Lysara darted to a nearby terminal, her fingers flying over the alien controls. "Keep him busy," she called, her voice tight with focus. The screen flared to life, projecting Xylarath glyphs in a swirling dance. She traced the code, her glow dimming as the curse bit deeper. Tor ducked a wild swing, his sword slicing Karvox's arm. Blood hissed on the cold steel, but the hunter barely flinched. "You're soft, Kael," Karvox spat, lunging again. "Shoulda stayed a hunter. Redemption's a fool's game," says the man chasing shadows. Tor shot back. He parried a blow, the impact jarring his arm. His mind flickered to his sister, her last stand against hunters like this. He wouldn't let Lysara fall the same way. Lysara's voice cut through the fight, sharp and urgent. "I've got it. Records. From the war." She tapped the screen, pulling up a fragmented log. "My mother, she was here. Karvox let her go after she begged for me. It's true." Her glow steadied, a mix of shock and resolve washing over her. Karvox froze mid-strike, his dagger hovering inches from Tor's chest. His scarred face twisted, a flicker of something human breaking through. "She was a damn fool," he said, his voice low and rough. "Knelt there, crying for you. I didn't have the stomach to drain her, not then." Tor lowered his sword slightly, his breath heavy. "So why chase her daughter now?" Karvox's eyes darkened, his grip tightening on the dagger. "Because I'm not that man anymore. Survival's all that's left." He stepped back, his stance shifting, less a hunter, more a cornered beast. Lysara rose from the terminal, her cracked hands trembling but firm. "You don't get to decide my fate," she said, her voice cold as the void. She nodded at Tor, and he raised his sword again. Together they advanced, a united front against the past. Karvox snarled, retreating toward his ship. "This ain't over." His words echoed as he slipped inside, the hatch slamming shut. The engines roared, and the black ship lifted off, vanishing into the Helix's shadows. Tor sheathed his sword, his chest heaving. "He'll be back." Lysara's glow pulsed faintly, her eyes locked on the spires. "Let him come. I got answers now, and a fight to finish." A cold voice crackled through the outpost speakers. "The prophet sees your sins." The dark wasn't empty anymore. The silence of Duskspire pressed down like a heavy shroud, broken only by the faint hum of ancient Xylarath machinery. Dust swirled across the landing pad, kicked up by Karvox's retreating ship. Tor stood firm, his plasma sword still warm. In his hand, its blue glow fading against the outpost's dark spires. His chest heaved, the fight's adrenaline still pumping through him. Beside him, Lysara swayed slightly, her sapphire skin dim and cracked. The curse of dissolution gnawed at her, a relentless thief stealing her light. She clutched the terminal's edge, her white eyes fixed on the glowing glyphs. "That log, it's proof," she said, her voice raw but steady. "My mother fought for me here. I won't let it end like this." Tor sheathed his sword, the soft click echoing in the stillness. "We've got time. Let's find that cure." He turned toward the airlock, its pitted surface gleaming faintly under the supernova's red haze. A sharp crack split the air. Shadows moved fast across the platform, angular ships dropping from the void, their hulls painted with the torn DNA, mark of the pure collective. Turrets swiveled, spitting plasma bolts that seared the steel beneath Tor's boots. He dove behind a crate, dragging Lysara with him. The impact shook the ground. a deep boom rolling through the outpost. "They're here," Lysara hissed, her glow flaring briefly. She pressed against the crate, her cracked hands trembling. "The Prophet's zealots." Tor peeked over the edge, his gray eyes narrowing. 3 ships hovered above, their engines growling like starved beasts. Figures in white robes dropped to the platform, wielding rifles that pulsed with nano-disruptors. A cold voice blared from their leader's comm unit, clipped and mechanical. "Surrender the abomination. Nano defiles the pure." "Not today," Tor muttered. He pulled Lysara back, his flesh hand tight on her arm. "We're getting inside." Now, they bolted for the airlock, plasma bolts sizzling past them. The steel hissed where the shot struck, leaving molten scars. Tor slammed his fist on the control panel, and the hatch groaned open, its gears grinding. With age, they slipped inside, the doors sealing shut with a heavy clang just as a bolt grazed its edge. The interior of Duskspire was a tomb of shadows and steel. Dim green lights flickered along the walls, casting eerie patterns across the floor. The air smelled of stale ozone and rust, thick with the weight of centuries. Lysara stumbled, her glow dimming further. Tor caught her, steadying her against his side. "Stay with me," he said, his voice low and urgent. "I'm trying," she rasped, forcing herself upright. "There's a lab ahead. Xylarath tech. I can feel it." They moved fast, boots echoing down the corridor. The Pure Collective's shouts faded behind the thick walls, but Tor knew they'd breach soon. He led Lysara into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. Consoles lined the walls, their screens dead but humming faintly. In the center stood a nano-core, a towering cylinder of black metal, pulsing with faint blue veins. Lysara's eyes widened. "That's it. The key to the curse." She staggered toward it, her hands reaching for a control panel. A crash echoed behind them. The airlock buckled, white-robed figures pouring through. Tor spun, raising his sword. "Get it working," he shouted, charging the intruders. His blade met a disruptor rifle, the clash ringing out like a bell. The collective fighters moved with precision, their shots forcing Tor back. A bolt grazed his shoulder, searing through his armor. He grunted, slashing one attacker down, but another closed in. Lysara's voice cut through the chaos. "I've got it, almost there." Tor's heart pounded. He couldn't hold them forever, not one-handed, not like this. The nanocore's hum grew louder, a deep thrum shaking the floor. He glanced at Lysara. Her glow was fading fast, her body trembling. She wouldn't last without help. "Damn it," he growled, ripping open a panel on his sword. The nanocell inside glowed bright, a last resort he'd sworn never to use. He jammed it into his shoulder port, where his mechanical arm once connected. Energy surged through him, sharp and electric. The curse kicked in instantly, his flesh tingling with the first signs of decay. He roared, cutting through 2 collective fighters in a single swing. Their bodies hit the floor, rifles clattering. Lysara's hands flew across the panel, and the nanocore flared, a wave of blue light washing over her. The cracks in her skin slowed, then stopped, her glow steadying. Tor stumbled, his vision blurring. "Did it work?" His voice was rough, strained. Lysara turned, her eyes bright again. "Yes, you're an idiot." Outside, the collective regrouped, their cold chant rising. "The Prophet demands blood." The chamber inside Duskspire pulsed with the nano-core's deep thrum, its blue veins casting a ghostly light across the steel walls. Tor leaned against a console, his breath ragged. The curse of dissolution gnawed at him now. A faint tingle, spreading from his shoulder where he'd tapped the nanocell. His plasma sword lay heavy in his flesh hand, its glow dimming with his strength. Sweat stung his eyes, matting his scorched brown hair. Lysara stood by the nanocore, her sapphire skin steady and bright again. The curse's cracks had vanished, her glow restored by the Xylarath tech. She turned to Tor, her white eyes sharp with a mix of relief and frustration. You didn't have to do that, she said, her voice firm but softer than before. I could have held out. Tor smirked, though it took effort, not taking that chance. You're the brains here. I'm just the muscle. He pushed off the console, steadying himself. His legs felt like lead, but he kept moving. A sharp clang echoed through the chamber. The airlock buckled again. White-robed figures of the pure collective spilling in. Their rifles pulsed with nano-disruptors, and their leader, a tall figure with a hooded face, stepped forward. His voice rang out, cold and mechanical, amplified by his comm unit. The Prophet has judged you. Nano defiles the pure. Surrender, or be cleansed. Lysara's glow flared, her fists clenching. They're fanatics, she spat. They'd burn the galaxy to save it. Tor raised his sword, its hum weak but defiant. Let's give 'em something to pray about. He nodded toward the nano-core. That thing's more than a cure, isn't it? Her eyes flicked to the cylinder, then back to him. It's the Helix Core, she said, her voice quickening. The power source my people helped build. It can run a ship, a big one. Enough to get us out of this void. Tor's gut tightened. A way out. He'd chased rumors of the core for years, a scav's dream to free humanity from the Helix's graveyard. Now it stood here, humming with promise and danger. Then we're taking it, he said, his tone hard. But first, these bastards. The collective advanced, their disruptors firing in unison. Tor dove behind a console, pulling Lysara with him. Plasma bolts seared the air, leaving scorch marks on the steel. The chamber shook, dust raining from the ceiling. Tor popped up, slashing at the nearest fighter. His blade cut clean through a rifle, the weapon sparking as it hit the floor. Lysara darted to the nano-core's controls, her hands flying across the panel. I can activate it, she called, dodging a stray shot. But it'll take time. Cover me. Her glow pulsed with each command, the core's hum growing louder, a deep rumble that vibrated through the walls. Tor grunted, parrying a disruptor blast with his sword. On it, he lunged at another collective soldier, driving his blade into the man's chest. The fighter crumpled, but more took his place. The Prophet's voice droned on, unrelenting. You cannot escape purity. Nano has corrupted you, human and Valtheri alike. Shut up already, Tor growled, kicking a rifle from an attacker's hands. His shoulder burned now, the curse spreading faster. He could feel it, his skin prickling, his strength fading. 72 hours was generous. He'd be lucky to get half that. The nano-core flared, its blue light surging brighter. Lysara's voice rose over the chaos. It's powering up. I've linked it to a ship in the hangar. Xylarath design, still intact. She ducked as a bolt sizzled past her head, singeing the air with a sharp crack. Tor fought his way back to her, his sword swinging in wide arcs. How long? His breath came in short gasps, each move a battle against his own body. Minutes, Lysara said, her fingers a blur on the controls. Keep them off me. The collective's leader, the Prophet's voice incarnate, closed in, his hood falling back to reveal a face half metal, half flesh. His eyes glowed red, a twisted fusion of man and machine. You cling to corruption, he intoned, raising a disruptor pistol. The Prophet offers salvation through fire. Tor met his gaze, his sword steady despite the tremble in his arm. Salvation's overrated, he charged, blade clashing with the pistol in a shower of sparks. The nano-core's rumble peaked, a deafening roar filling the chamber. Blue light flooded the space, blinding and fierce. Lysara shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. It's ready, we got a ride. But the collective tightened their circle, and the Prophet's red eyes burned with zeal. The chamber of Duskspire trembled under the Helix Core's roar, its blue light pulsing like a living star. Consoles sparked and flickered, their ancient circuits overwhelmed by the surge. Tor faced the Prophet, his plasma sword clashing against the disruptor pistol in a burst of white-hot sparks. Sweat dripped from his brow, stinging his eyes. The curse of dissolution burned through him now, a sharp ache spreading from his shoulder down his chest. His legs wobbled, but he held firm. Lysara stood at the nano-core's controls, her sapphire glow steady and fierce. She slammed her hands onto the panel, her voice rising over the chaos. The ship's powering up. We're almost there. Her fingers danced across the glyphs, coaxing the Xylarath vessel to life in the hangar below. The prophet's red eyes glowed brighter, his half-metal face twisting into a sneer. "You cannot outrun purity," he intoned, his voice a cold rasp. He shoved Tor back with a mechanical arm, the force sending him skidding across the steel floor. The disruptor pistol whirred, charging for a lethal shot. Tor rolled to his feet, his sword flashing up to deflect the blast. The plasma bolt ricocheted, searing a hole in the chamber's wall. "Keep talking," he grunted, lunging forward. His blade slashed at the prophet's chest, cutting through robe and metal. Sparks flew, and the zealot staggered, his pistol clattering to the ground. Around them, the pure collective tightened their ranks, their rifles spitting disruptor fire. The air crackled with energy, thick with the smell of burnt ozone. Tor ducked a shot, his breath coming in sharp gasps. The curse was winning, his vision blurred, his strength fading fast. He couldn't take much more. Lysara's voice cut through, the haze, sharp and urgent. "Tor, the core's linked. We've got to go. Now." She darted from the controls, her glow flaring as she grabbed a fallen rifle. She fired at the collective, her shots precise despite the tremble in her hands. 2 fighters dropped, their white robes pooling red on the floor. Tor glanced at her, a faint grin tugging at his lips. "Nice aim." He turned back to the prophet, who'd recovered his pistol. The zealot raised it, his voice rising in a chant. "The prophet's will is eternal. You will fall." "Not, yes," Tor growled. He charged, his sword swinging low. The blade caught the prophet's leg, severing metal and flesh. The leader crumpled with a mechanical screech, his red eyes dimming as he hit the ground. The collective faltered, their chants breaking into shouts. Tor stumbled, his sword slipping from his grip. The curse gripped him tighter, his skin prickling with heat. He sank to one knee, his breath shallow. "Lysara, get to the ship." She rushed to his side, slinging his arm over her shoulder. "Not without you, idiot." Her glow pulsed warm against him as she hauled him up. The nanocore's light bathed the chamber, its hum a steady heartbeat. Together, they staggered toward the hangar access, the collective regrouping behind them. The hangar door hissed open, revealing the Xylarath ship, a sleek, angular beast of black steel, its engines glowing blue with the Helix Core's power. Tor's legs buckled as they reached the ramp, his vision swimming. Lysara dragged him aboard, her voice fierce. "Stay with me, Tor. We're not done." He forced a nod, his hand fumbling for the ship's controls. The curse had taken his arm, his strength, everything but his will. He slammed the ignition, and the engines roared to life, a deep bellow shaking the hull. The ship lifted, tearing free of Duskspire's grip. Through the viewport, the collective swarmed the platform, their rifles firing uselessly at the ascending craft. The prophet lay still, a broken figure in the dust. His voice crackled faintly, over the comms, a dying whisper. "You'll regret this. Purity will rise." Lysara sank into the co-pilot's seat, her glow steady but weary. "He's gone. They're done." She glanced at Tor, her white eyes softening. "You didn't have to burn yourself out for me." Tor leaned back, his chest heaving. "Had to. You're the one who will fly us out of here." His voice was weak, but a scav's grin lingered. "Besides, I'm too stubborn to quit." The ship climbed higher, the Helix debris field stretching, below like a shattered crown. The core's power thrummed through the hole, a promise of freedom, or ruin. Then, a faint signal blinked on the scanner. Valtheri code, clear and strong. "We see you." It whispered. The Xylarath ship soared above the Helix debris field, its engines humming with the Helix Core's steady pulse. Through the viewport, the wrecks faded into a blur of steel and starlight, bathed in the supernova's dying red glow. Inside the cockpit, the air buzzed faintly with the scent of scorched metal and the soft thrum of alien tech. Tor slumped in the pilot's seat, his flesh hand resting limp on the controls. The curse of dissolution had taken its toll. His skin prickled with heat, his breath shallow and uneven. Lysara sat beside him, her sapphire glow restored and bright. She adjusted the co-pilot's console, her fingers steady despite the exhaustion in her posture. The ship's scanners glowed with data, the Valtheri signal blinking stronger now, a lifeline in the void. She glanced at Tor, her white eyes softening. "You look like hell," she said, her voice dry but warm. "Should have let me take that hit." Tor chuckled, a rough sound that caught in his throat. "Not my style. Besides, you're the one who got us out." He shifted in the seat, wincing as the curse's ache flared. "How's the core holding?" She tapped the screen, pulling up a power readout. "Stable. This ship's a beast. Xylarath built it to last. We've got enough juice to cross galaxies if we want." Her glow pulsed faintly, a rhythm of pride and hope. "My people helped design this. Feels right to take it back." Tor nodded, his gray eyes tracing the stars ahead. A scav's dream. Something. Worth more than scrap. He paused, his voice dropping low. "My mother used to call me Torval. Said it meant one who stands. Never felt like I earned it, till now." Lysara tilted her head, studying him. "You stood for me back there. That's something." Her tone carried a grudging respect, a crack in the wall she'd built against humans. The ship's hum filled the silence, a steady heartbeat against the void's emptiness. Tor leaned back, his hand brushing the empty socket where his mechanical arm once sat. "This thing kept me alive, but it was a chain too. Losing it. Maybe that's what freedom feels like." She smirked, a faint curve of her lips. "Freedom's overrated when you're dying." She reached over, adjusting a strap on his seat. "You're not built for sitting still. Let me show you something." Lysara stood, guiding him to a small viewport on the ship's side. Her glow cast a cool light as she pointed to a control pad. "Valtheri trick. Watch." She tapped a sequence and the panel slid open, revealing a storage unit. Inside lay a sleek, silver prosthetic, not clunky, like his old arm but elegant, etched with faint glyphs. Tor's breath caught. "Where'd you find that?" "Xylarath's stash," she said, pulling it free. "It's nano-free, runs on kinetic charge. No curse, no chains." She knelt beside him, fitting it to his shoulder. The device clicked into A's place, its surface warming as it synced with his movements. He flexed his new hand, the fingers curling smooth and silent. "Feels alive," Tor murmured, staring at the prosthetic. "You didn't have to do this," Lysara shrugged, her glow steady. "You didn't have to take the curse from me. Call it even." She stood, brushing dust from her hands. "Now you've got no excuse to slack off." He grinned, a scav spark returning to his eyes. "Never planned to." He tested the arm, lifting it with ease. It wasn't just a tool, it was a second chance. "You said something about crossing galaxies. Where to?" She returned to the console, pulling up the Valtheri signal. "North, where the beacon's pointing. My people's promised land. Green skies, clean air. A home we lost to Xylarath." Her voice softened, a rare vulnerability breaking through. "If anyone's left, they're there." Tor leaned forward, his new hand resting on the controls. "Then that's where we're going. Humans and Valtheri. We've been scrapping in this void too long. Time to build something instead." His words carried a quiet fire, a dream his mother might have smiled at. Lysara nodded, her glow pulsing in sync with the ship's hum. "Together then. No hunters. No chains." She adjusted the nav screen, locking in the northern course. The stars shifted outside, a new horizon stretching wide and unknown. The ship sailed smooth and steady, the helix falling behind like a bad memory. Tor flexed his silver hand again, feeling the weight of what they'd fought for. "We're not just running," he said, his voice firm. "We're heading somewhere." Lysara's eyes met his, a silent pact forged in the glow. Somewhere, worth finding. The scanner beeped, the Valtheri signal growing clearer. A faint image flickered on the screen, sapphire light twinkling in the distance, a beacon against the black. Tor's pulse quickened. It was real, or damn close to it. But something else lingered out there, a shadow, faint but moving, watching. The Xylarath ship glided through the void, its engines humming a steady song powered by the Helix Core. The Helix debris field faded behind, a jagged memory swallowed by the black. Through the viewport, stars stretched into infinity, their light sharp against the dark canvas. Inside the cockpit, the air carried a faint tang of metal and hope, the soft glow of Lysara's sapphire skin blending with the ship's blue panels. Tor sat at the controls, his new silver hand resting easy on the throttle. The prosthetic moved like an extension of himself, smooth, silent, free of the curse that had nearly claimed him. His grey eyes traced the starfield, a scav's curiosity burning bright. The ache in his chest had dulled, though the curse of dissolution lingered, a faint echo he could outlast. For now, he was alive, and moving forward. Lysara leaned over the co-pilot's console, her white eyes locked on the scanner. The Valtheri signal pulsed stronger, a rhythmic beat guiding them. North. She tapped the screen, pulling up a faint image, sapphire lights twinkling at the edge of a distant galaxy. "That's it," she said, her voice steady but alive with wonder. "The promised land, my people's old home. Green skies, clean rivers. It's real." Tor tilted his head, a faint grin tugging at his lips. "Looks like a hell of a place to start over." He flexed his silver fingers, marveling at their precision. "You sure they'll take a beat-up human like me?" She smirked, her glow pulsing bright. "If I can stand you, they'll manage." She adjusted the nav course, her hands quick and sure. "Valtheri don't forget a debt. You stood with me. They'll see that." The ship sailed smooth and quiet, its hull cutting through the void like a blade through silk. Tor leaned back, his flesh hand brushing the armrest. "Never thought I'd live for more than scrap. My mother called me Torval, said I'd stand for something. Guess she was right." His voice carried a scav's grit, softened by a rare peace. Lysara's glow steadied, her eyes meeting his. "You're not the only one finding a purpose." She paused, her tone softening. "My family's gone, but this ship, this signal, it's like they're still guiding me home." A low hum filled the cockpit, the ship's systems syncing with the core's power. The stars outside shifted, a new galaxy creeping into view. Its edges shimmered with faint green, a promise of air, untainted by rust and ash. Tor's breath caught. He'd spent years chasing rumors in the Helix, but this was no scav's tale. This was real. "We're crossing the rim," Lysara said, her voice rising with excitement. She pointed to the viewport, where sapphire lights grew brighter. Distant structures, maybe ships, glowing against the green haze. "That's Valtheri tech. They're alive out there." Tor straightened, his silver hand tightening on the controls. "Then, let's not keep 'em waiting." He pushed the throttle forward, the ship responding with a deep, eager rumble. The void blurred past, a tunnel of stars leading them onward. The scanner beeped, the Valtheri signal resolving into words. "We see you. Welcome to the edge." Lysara's glow flared, a burst of joy breaking through her guarded shell. "They're waiting for us," she said, her voice trembling with hope. "A new start. For both our kinds." Tor nodded, his scav's grin widening. Humans and Valtheri, side by side, beats scrapping in the dark. He glanced at her, a silent pact sealed in the cockpit's glow. "We'll build something out there. No hunters, no chains. Just us." The ship broke through the galaxy's rim, the green light washing over them like a wave, the viewport filled with a breathtaking sight, planets ringed with emerald clouds, their surfaces dotted with sapphire spires. Ships moved in the distance, their hulls gleaming with Valtheri design. The air inside the cockpit seemed to lighten, as if the promise of that world reached through the steel. Lysara stood, her glow sinking with the lights outside. "This is it," she whispered, her voice a mix of awe and resolve. "Home." Tor rose beside her, his silver hand steady at his side. "Ours too, if they'll have us." He took a deep breath, the weight of the Helix lifting from his shoulders. "Let's go meet him." The ship descended toward the nearest planet, its engines singing a song of arrival. The Valtheri signal pulsed one last time, clear and strong. Then a new voice broke through, a warm, familiar tone that stopped Tor cold. "Yo, welcome home, Toren Kael." He froze, his gray eyes widening. Only his mother had called him that, her voice echoing from a past long buried. She'd been dead for years, lost to the Helix's grind. Lysara turned to him, her glow dimming with confusion. "Who's that?" Tor's throat tightened, his scav's instincts screaming. "No one who should be here." The green world loomed closer, its sapphire lights beckoning. But that voice lingered, a mystery box sealed tight in the void.